Hey, it's Nate, and today I am doing the classic Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. I'll show you an easy and great sounding piano accompaniment. A tricky thing about making this video is there are lots of different beloved versions, each with different interpretations of the chord progression. Some versions get very jazzy with the harmonies, there's differences in the lyrics, and they're all in different keys. But I'll show you what is to my ear the best of all worlds while being relatively easy and fun to play. Let's jump in. All right, so first off, I recommend you get the chords and lyrics chart. There's a link down in the description that's going to help you follow along and see where the chords and lyrics line up with each other. And I'm doing this in the key of G, though it does step outside of that scale a little bit. And I'll be singing it in the lower octave, but if you've got a higher voice, sing it an octave up. Let's start out with the main chord progression that is featured in the verse, but I'm going to use it for an optional intro. It looks like that. I'll start the song by playing through that twice. It's going to sound like this. Okay, so we're going to start out with a G major chord, just root position G, B, D. This is middle C, by the way, so you get the octave right. And then an octave lower with my second finger, I am doing a G bass note. Next up, we've got an E minor 7. I'm going to keep the right hand exactly where it is and just go to the fourth finger in the left hand to do that E bass note. Next, we've got an A minor 7. Of course, I'm going to come up to an A bass note here using my first finger. Now, in the right hand, we can keep our first finger on the G and just kind of stretch the hand up to do a C and an E there. So G, C, E with the A bass note. And then finally here, we've got a D7 coming down to my fifth finger on that D bass note, and then A, C, D, and F sharp. Now we're in 4/4 time, so every measure gets 4 counts. Now each of these measures has 2 chords in them, so 2 counts for each of those chords. And right off the bat, I'm going to pulse on quarter notes in the right hand, just playing on every count. So it would be G, 2, E minor 7, 4, A minor 7, 2, D7, 4. And that already is sounding really good. There's a couple other things we can do to spice it up. I'm going to be doing a little bit more rhythm in the left hand, playing on some of the eighth notes between the counts, thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'll just do extra hits on the and after 2 and the and after 4, like 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1. 2 and 3, 4 and. And if you'd like, 2 and 3. You can do a passing tone on the way down to the E on that F sharp there. And a cool thing about this song is you can feel it a lot of different ways. Some versions are really peppy. You might want to do that same rhythm, but fast and snappy, with sort of accents on every other hit. Or you could have it be more slow and emotional. I'm going to do my version somewhere in between. Before we move on, I'll give you one more optional detail. Throughout the song, any line that ends with a D7, on the very last hit, the fourth count, you can do a D augmented, which would be changing the A here to an A sharp, also letting go of the C. So you would do A sharp, D, and F sharp there. I think that sounds really cool. I didn't include it on the chords and lyrics chart because most versions of the songs don't have it. I don't know if everyone is going to like the way it sounds, but if you do, throw it in wherever you want. I'm going to definitely do it at the end of the intro. So let me just play this intro with all those details one more time, and then we'll continue on. Yourself. Okay, now we're in the first verse. Here's the chords to the first verse, and you may decide to just start the song right in here with the singing and no intro, but the first line that repeats is the same as the intro. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. And of course, anytime we're on that D7, you could do that D augmented. Next year, all our troubles. Okay, so this line's a little bit different. At its core, we've got a G, just like we've been doing it. But when we come down to the E, this time we're going to just do a regular E minor, not 7. We'll play the E up here. So it's an inversion. We got a G, B, and E. Second finger on that B. Before we keep going here, I I'm gonna add this stepping down here. So we've got G on the first count. On the second count, on your way to the E, you can do a G over F sharp. I didn't write this into the chords and lyrics chart. It looked a little messy, but then we've got the E minor, and on the fourth count there, you could do E minor over D before getting to the A minor 7. So the left hand's just stepping down G, F sharp, E, D. Then A minor 7, D7, just like we did it before. Okay, now we've got this B7. So we can keep our first finger on the A and just stretch up to D sharp and F sharp here. The left hand's just gonna have to stretch up a little bit to hit that B bass note. That's just for 2 counts because then we're gonna go to E7. I'm gonna hit the fourth finger on that E bass note there. And then this is the exact same shape we were doing for the D7, just up a step higher on B, D, E, and G sharp. That's for counts 3 and 4 of that measure. Now we've got A7, so we can keep our first finger on A yet again. It's A, C sharp, E, and G there. A with my first finger. If you can't make that stretch, you could just do the top 3 notes. And then finally, D7, and that's a really smooth transition, keeping the first finger on A. A lot going on there in that line. Let me just do it again slowly. Next year all our troubles will be out of sight. Of course, you could add the D augmented before going into the next verse. Have yourself. So here's the chords for the second verse. But real quick, if you are enjoying this video, take a second to like it and subscribe. It might sound silly, but it really does make a difference in terms of more people seeing my videos, and that means that I can spend more time making them. So the second verse starts out just like the other one, then goes in a little bit of a different direction in the second line. So we've got, have yourself a merry little Christmas. You can always throw in the D augmented. Make the Yuletide gay. Next year all our troubles will be miles away. Okay, the second line is the same as it was in the first verse, all the way through the A minor 7, but then the second half of that measure, instead of going to the D7, it's gonna go straight to the B7. The same way we voiced it before, although last time we did this bass note here, this time I'm gonna reach down with my fifth finger to do a low, more dramatic bass note there. And then we're gonna go to E minor 7 for a full measure, 3, 4, so the same way we voiced it before. And then to turn that into a G, all we gotta do is get the G bass note. But I'm actually gonna hop my fourth finger up here to get ready. So 2 beats of G, and then 2 more beats of G7. All we gotta do is add an F to the top of it. You could just hop your hand up and do a B, D, F if you don't wanna make the 4-finger stretch there. And an optional detail at the end here would be stepping up on the way to C, which is where we're gonna land for the next section. That would just be A on beat 3, B on beat 4. So that measure would be G2, switch to G7, A, B, on the way up to once again. So that last line one more time. Next year all our troubles will be miles away. Hop the 4th finger to the bridge once again. Okay, here are the chords for the bridge. Of course, we're starting on that C. C major 7, so I'm on bass C here in the left hand, and I've got a B, E, and G in the right, and that's just for 2 counts before we switch to C minor 6. So to get there from where we were, all we got to do is drop the first finger to A, and we're going to flat the E. Now from there, we're going to go to a B minor 7. Notice my right hand first finger stayed on A, and then we've got a D and an F sharp, of course, a B bass note here. That's 2 counts before going to B flat diminished. So that's going to be B flat, D flat, and E. And finger-wise, I like to kind of do collapse the hand in 2, 3, and 5 there. That makes for a nice transition to this A minor 7, but I'm going to cross my left-hand thumb under here. So A minor 7 for 2 counts to D7. That's a familiar chord change here. I'm going to go to the low D bass note there. Finally here, landing on a G major 7. Now these top fingers can stay basically where they are. It's G, B, D, and F sharp. If you can't make the stretch, just do the top 3 notes there. Once again, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. It stays on the G major 7, a whole measure. You might want to throw in a little bit of arpeggio there if you'd like. Let's keep going. This part is really cool. Faithful friends who are dear to us. So for that E minor 6, we've got a G, B, D flat or C sharp in the right hand, with an E there, and the left hand E down there. And that was a smooth transition from the G minor 7, by the way. Those 2 fingers stay in the same place. And then for this F sharp 7, this can happen pretty smoothly as well. These 2 fingers are going to stay the same. We're going to come up to F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, and E there. And then we've got just a regular B minor, B, D, F sharp with the B bass note, and that's going to be for a full measure. Faithful friends who are dear to us will be near to us once more. Okay, so we had a D7 there for 2 counts, then up to the A dominant 7 there. You can voice that just like we did at the end of the first verse. But then we're going to flip it to an A minor 7, and then back to D7 there. Let me play through that whole bridge one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once again, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us will be near to us once more. I'll be throwing that in someday soon. Okay, we're in verse 3. This is what that looks like. This looks a lot like the second verse, just with 2 extra measures sort of tagged on at the end. So from that middle line, until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow. So have yourself a merry little Christmas now. There is a G there to start the next section, but all the chords in that last measure there are all ones we've talked about. It's a full measure of C major 7, A minor 7 to D7. And now, of course, you hear it resolving to G on now, and you could totally end the song right there. Some versions of this song go on quite a bit longer by going back to the bridge, often with the choir singing instead of the lead vocals. So if you have a choir in the other room, they can pop their head in and sing along with that part, and then it would go straight to another verse 3, and then whatever you want to do for an outro. Here's what I'm going to do for an outro, though. It's going to sound like this. So we'll start out there just like we do with the stepping down part in the verses, but instead of going to the A minor 7 like we otherwise would, I'm going to go to the C major 7 just for a little extra power. I'm going to do octaves there. You don't have to. Probably slowing down here, and then that C minor 6 that we had done, and then ending on a G. And I'm going to do a higher version of G. It just sounds a little brighter, and I think it's a nice note to end the song on. So D, G, and B, but you could, of course, do any inversion. I'm going to do octaves there, and then just let it ring out, and the song is over. All right, thank you for sticking with me. I am now going to do a full playthrough of everything so you can hear how all the parts fit together. And if you enjoy this video, give it a like. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and click the bell so you know when I put out more videos like this one. Okay, here's my version of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. A merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. Next year all our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself